guest, Gina Moss, is back with us again to show how you can get out of your comfort zone. An important message as we close out the show for 2023 and usher into the 2024 season. Now, Gina holds the Ms. Senior World 2023 National Crown from the Ms. Senior World pageant. I'm sure you remember her. She's a vocalist, a pianist, and a dancer, and Gina has appeared in over 500 television commercials, music videos, and some hosting work and jingles. Now, currently, Gina is retired in Miramar, Florida, with her husband, Charlie, after a successful career in the health insurance business that turned to a pharmaceutical and medical device career. She's not resting on her laurels, though, because Gina stays busy with many projects. Gina, thank you so much for coming back again.
Thank you very much, Sunita. I'm happy to be with you today.
Now, I'm excited about this topic because the last time, of course, you were here, you spoke about this Miss Senior World pageant, which as we get into 2024, we'll definitely have someone back, maybe you back to talk about that so women can sign up for the next pageant. But now we want to motivate the ladies as they close out the year and go into 2024. So I'm excited to hear what you have to share.
Well, the one thing that I would encourage people to think about is don't be afraid to be afraid. I think that a lot of times we make a lot of our decisions in our life. I know that I certainly have. I know a lot of people that have, based on fears of things. Oh, if I do this, then I can't do that. Or if I do this, then this might happen. And so a lot of times you get analysis paralysis. There's just too much going on. When in reality, if you kind of take the fear out of it, or this is a crazy concept, but maybe if you embrace the fear, a lot of times the most unexpected things can happen to you, around you, and for you. And that has been my experience, certainly since I've been in my 60s. A lot of things have changed, and I've had a lot of wonderful surprises that I never would have thought, and things that I didn't plan for myself. But because I wasn't afraid to be afraid, those things came to me. And it was very exciting, and it's made my life a richer life.
So analysis paralysis, is that like we think a lot about what we want to do, or we analyze what we can't do? How does that work?
I think from my experience, I have a really good friend, and she's a physician. And I've mentioned to you, and we've talked about before, about flipping houses. And I've flipped houses in my spare time since I was in my 20s. And at this point, my husband and I together now have done 33 houses and condos. And this particular friend of mine is one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met in my entire life. But more information for her just gets her bogged down, because the more information that she has, the more that she sees that, oh my gosh, this could really have a bad outcome, or, oh my gosh, I don't know enough about this. And if I don't know enough about this, then this could have a terrible outcome. And she's the one that introduced me to that concept, analysis paralysis. And so we talked a lot. She and her husband, who's also a physician, wanted to start flipping houses. And my husband, Charlie, and I had dinner with them and formed a friendship with them, and sort of became their coaches or their mentors in terms of how they could make this happen for themselves. And what happened with them over time is, I started to ask her, I said, well, okay, so let's just take this to the worst possible thing that could happen. So you do this and it doesn't work out. Then what? And I would let her talk about it. I'd say, okay, well, what if this turns out and it's really great? Then what? And we sort of talked about different things. And before long, she looked at 2 or 3 different properties. And the last property, she called Charlie and myself over there to look at it. And we said, gosh, this is a great opportunity. You found something that could really be a great deal for you and your husband. And it turned out the house has almost doubled in value, and it's been a fantastic rental property for them. And now they ended up, without even consulting us, they bought another property, and it's very, very good. And they have a couple of condos. And it just took somebody to give them a little bit of a gentle shove and to basically tell them to trust themselves. Things are going to happen without question, as they do in our lives day to day. But things happen a lot of times, and it's the way that you recover or you handle all of those things that really makes life satisfying and very exciting.
Okay, sort of going back to the slogan, just do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so much in your life, haven't you been told since you were a little kid and you had a Band-Aid and your parents are like, just rip it off.
Yeah.
It sounds awful to do that. Or, I mean, this is terrible. People now, it would not be looked upon as anything humorous, but people used to take the kids and when they were 6 or 7, they kind of throw them in the shallow end of the pool to teach them, go ahead, try it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the best, but in fact, it's not. There are classes now for that. But the concept of that is just facing fear and finding a way out of it, and facing fear and, creating a safe space around that. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I experienced this year, just in terms of a fear that I had a little bit, I was afraid. I hadn't sung in 40 years on stage since I'd last competed. And so this year, when I came back to crown the new Miss Senior World, they asked me if I would sing. And I got up there and I did. And the thing that I was the most worried about is, oh my gosh, what if I mess up? I had a million different ways I could have messed up. I could have forgotten the lyrics, could have done this, could have done that. And I got out on stage, and for the first time in 40 some odd years, I wasn't nervous at all. And I was really concerned that I wasn't nervous. I got out on stage and I walked out and got so excited with the lights and everything. I missed my intro into my song by a full beat and couldn't get back. And so I immediately just stopped and waved to the sound technicians and said, hey, it's been 40 years. Would you mind just restarting this? I missed my beat when I came in. Mm-hmm. And I came right back and I did it. And it was probably one of the best performances I've done in my entire life. Not even some of the things that I did when I was 20 years old compared to that. And after it was over with, people came up from the audience and they all thought that the sound technician had made the error. And I said, no, it was me. I counted that beat. I knew I had 4 beats to get in on that. And I counted it and I just was off because I was excited. And then the next night I got to do it again because we had a finals night and a semifinals night. And the next night it was even better because I was, I thought the worst thing has happened. Mm-hmm. And I survived and I got a lot of positive feedback, and I would do it again. And I won't ever have to be nervous again because now I've messed up and that's it. I've gotten it out of the way so I can go on to the next thing.
Yeah, I love that you said it was 40 years. So that's significant for our audience though. So you pushed through a comfort zone and did something that you hadn't done in 40 years, ladies. 40 years. So what do you find? Do you find that women our age and older, have a problem in busting out of that comfort zone? Is it harder or easier?
I think it's more difficult now because we've had, 20, 30, 40 years of habits that are deeply ingrained in us. Whereas when we're in our teens, in our 20s, and even in our 30s, we're still sort of pliable. We're figuring ourselves out and we're kind of figuring out our place in the world. At this point in time, we sort of know ourselves. Maybe we've forgotten ourselves a little bit through caring for other people in our life, but we definitely, we have things that we can still surprise ourselves with. And I think we forget that. We think, oh gosh, I'm this type of a person, or you get feedback from your friends and they see you in a certain way or in a certain role, or if you're still in the work community, your coworkers see you as a certain type. But in actuality, that might not be who you really are. You may have kind of been this person that got a job and it was a great job, but it was never the job of your dreams. And you just kind of did that job because it gave you free time with your family, or it paid a certain amount of money that made things better financially for your family. But at this point in life, those things are not as important for most people. The things that are more important are the intrinsic things, the things that are, there's no price tag to them. And they're things that you can't, wrap up and put under a Christmas tree and have somebody else open and be surprised by. So I think what we want from life is we want personal fulfillment. We want joyfulness. We want love. We'd like to probably get rid of a lot of the fear. I heard one time, I can't remember exactly where it was when I was living in Nashville, but it was one of my friends in the music industry. And they said, There are only two things. There is only fear and love. And fear is the opposite of love, not hate. And it made a lot of sense to me because the things in life that make you fearful, if you conquer those things, they can be very loving in what that does to your soul and your spirit.
So I guess one of the things that I've noticed, like I coach women midlife and up, and I find, like you said, finding who you are again, but also sometimes at this age, we're in a process of rediscovery, like finding out and discovering that we enjoy some things that we haven't done before. There's a little bit more freedom because maybe you're an empty nester, or some things have changed, maybe like yourself, retired. So now you can explore those things as well. I guess I know you said sometimes it's harder at our age. What are some of the tips that you would give people to break out?
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So keep that in mind. All you have to do is just try one thing that's just a little bit different, and one thing that maybe is something you don't have any interest in. I mean, it's kind of easy. If you want to think back to when you're a child, you could maybe find a few things that when you were very young, if your parents told you that you enjoyed puzzles, for instance, puzzles. So you might enjoy, if you enjoyed puzzles at a young age, then that shows that was a natural instinct that you had as a child. So maybe what you might like to do is go to one of those rooms that you go to, escape rooms. You go to the escape room and then you figure out all these clues and you get out of it. And it seems like a crazy thing, and it's probably something you wouldn't normally do, but try it. Do something like that. If you could think back to, another thing, maybe what you enjoyed in elementary school, maybe you enjoyed your art class and maybe you enjoyed the painting portion of that. So, maybe you'd like to try ceramics or pottery or something like that. There's a class here. I've never done it before, but I probably am going to do it now that I'm mentioning it. I've had it in the back of my mind for several years, called Painting with a Twist. And you go and you take a painting class, and they give you a drink with a twist, a martini with a twist, or a glass of wine, and you have something that just everybody can kind of calm down a little bit and take a painting class where nobody is judging the results at the end of the night. And hey, if that turns out great, you've got a beautiful piece of art to bring home. So I would say try to think of some things that maybe you had natural inclinations for, but you never really did anything with those things, and try something as an adult that might bring that back out in you again.
Yeah, I love that, because honestly, I was thinking more along the line of, that long-term next project, or that long-term next career or whatever. But I kind of forgotten that also breaking out of your comfort zone is just trying something new. I guess back to the bucket list that we hear about. Try something new. You may only want to do it one time. And the escape room is actually on my list. And the VR room, there's a VR room that you could do with those glasses on.
Yes. I think there's so many different things like that. There's so many things that are the virtual realities that people do now. I think, as with anything, you can use them for great things. You can do them just to kill time. But I mean, it's really wonderful, the things that can happen. I have, when I was back in pharmaceuticals, I called on neurology, and I talked to this one neurologist that was always just a favorite of mine, because as a matter of fact, he was in the movie, what was that called? Gosh, it was a Robin Williams movie, and a lot of patients were basically in comas, and it had to do with L-dopamine, and they came out of it. I'll remember in a second. But anyway, he was in that study. He was a med student at that point. He worked on this actual study that was a movie, Awakenings. It was called Awakenings. And in any event, it just, he talked about the neural pathways in the brain, and that people are surprised, that they get older and they think, well, I'm slowing down. I can't remember things. Just like I had a senior moment. I couldn't remember that movie. I had to wait because I've got so much information in my brain. It takes me a little while to retrieve it. People automatically think that's a bad thing. He said, you are never too old to make new neural pathways. Mm-hmm. So anytime you do something different, so say we go to the escape room and we've never done that before, and we go through that process, that's building new neural pathways in your brain. That is a new skill set. That is new information. Your brain is functioning and waking up in new ways. And that's one of the things that's supposed to really help be somewhat preventative with Alzheimer's disease. So anything you can do that is very different and very out of your comfort zone. And even, in terms of careers, when you said that, I thought, oh gosh, it's probably a great idea for people to interview for a job that maybe they don't think they're qualified for, or maybe they don't necessarily really want, but just to go through the experience. Interview for it and see what happens, because they will build new neural pathways in the interview process, being talked to by different people in a different way for a different career than they have now. So I would say that's another way that you could try and, exercise your brain and build a skill set. And you never know, that one interview that you think is going absolutely nowhere, you might talk to somebody that says, this is not your job, but I've got a job that's perfect for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
And speaking of building skill sets, there's all kinds of programs that are online where you can learn different things for free. You can get certifications just to do it, and keeping that, I guess you could say, keeping the brain cells going and continue to learn.
There are even college courses online that you can do that you don't receive any credit for, but there's still college courses that you can take, and they're free and they're just virtual.
Yeah, I believe some of the Ivy Leagues even have those. You can tell people you went to Harvard, I guess. I don't know if you want to go
exactly to that right. extent,
but I took some Harvard classes.
Well, how many people have done that? Not too many. It's that's an exceptional thing that you can do that now. I would never have thought, and I don't know if you would have thought this, but 20 or 30 years ago, I would never have thought that would be possible.
Yeah. Very cool. So I love the idea that so breaking out of your comfort zone is also adding a newfound, I guess you could say, joy in your life or fun into your life. It's like maybe thinking of it that way, that probably will help get rid of the fear with some people. Breaking out of your comfort zone takes you to fun, or breaking out of your comfort zone takes you into adding more happiness in your life.
I agree. 100%. And leading into that, one more thing that I just thought of that fits right into exactly what you just said is this year at Miss Senior World, we have a Queen's ball that we do. And that's the first main event that you have throughout the week after you meet everybody. And Sherry, who is over the pageant, she's the director, she asked me if I would do a little something. And I had been things just strike me as funny, just in my day-to-day life. I think I have a good sense of humor. I can laugh at things that happen to me. I laugh at things that happen around me all the time. But we had the Queen's dinner, and she said, would you get up and just speak to the ladies? Because she said, I know you'll find something humorous to say that we can kind of have a little lighthearted moment. And so I did. So I had two things during that pageant that were fears of mine. Fear of speaking in public is the number one fear above, agoraphobia, acrophobia, all of these things. But I got up and I just jotted down a few notes of some things that I thought would be funny to talk about. And I did. And they were all things that had to do with getting older with senior women. So we had a lot of, little giggles with that. And one of them, if you are familiar with the comedian Jeff Foxworthy, he had the routine that he used to do. Of course, we're in the South now, but he had a routine that said, you might be a redneck if, something to that effect. And so I twisted that and said, you might be a Miss Senior World Queen if. And so the one that was the one that everybody enjoyed the most was I said, you might be a Miss Senior World contestant if you've never met a stranger, but you're intimately familiar with Metamucil.
Wow. Okay.
I know, just silly things like that. Just absolutely silly things like that. But it was just, thing after thing after thing, because, if you've ever had to rent an extra Uber just for your shoes. And that's really funny because one of the ladies after it was over with that came in, I can't remember if she was from California or if she was the one from Canada, but somebody came up and said, I had to get a separate Uber for my clothes.
Oh my gosh.
And So, I mean, it was a real thing. So everybody related to that one. But all week long, as we were there and we were meeting people, I would jot things down. I didn't have any idea before the week I was going to do that. But it's kind of, I was nervous. I thought, gosh, people don't know me that well. Are they going to think it's funny? Is it going to be too much? And it was slow at first. And then as time went on, it got a little bit, everybody got a little bit looser about it. And it was a fun event for everybody. And I thought it was great because now these ladies are seeing, again, the current queen. She's not afraid if she just really, if she's just not killing the audience. She's not afraid of that. If she has a couple of them that are not big jokes, and then the last one. But so I kind of tried to build it a little bit toward the end. And then when it got toward the end, it got really, really funny. But the first couple of jokes, people were kind of like, I don't know about this. Are girls supposed to be funny? I mean, how many stand-up comedians do you have? Not too many. And I'm certainly not one of them. But I thought, I'm going to give it a try anyway.
And that would be kind of interesting to know if some of our audience members wind up, maybe somebody's always wanted to be a comedian and wind up joining an open mic somewhere.
There's another thing too. And it's not necessarily about what happens. It's the way you handle what happens. I mean, if you have somebody that heckles you, I mean, that's a possibility. It certainly could happen, but you need to be able to handle that. But that can happen in day-to-day life. You could be backing out of a spot in the supermarket and somebody is annoyed because you didn't see them and, and they're aggravated at you and they gesture at you in a negative way. I mean, things like that happen and you just sort of figure your way around those things.
Yeah, you might have to even go into it thinking, especially if you're going to do a stand-up and you've never done it before, go to an open mic, you might have to go into it like, if I get heckled, maybe that would be fun.
That's exactly
right. I did it. I can brag about being heckled.
Absolutely, 100%. I always liked Steve Martin back in the day. I saw him when I was in college. It's been that long ago. But he used to play college campuses. And Steve Martin always had the greatest line when people would start to heckle him. Oh, Steve, blah, 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 blah. And he'd go, yeah, I remember when I had my first beer. I mean, it was as funny as any of his jokes. I mean, people could think about that. If somebody heckles me, what could I say back to them that really wouldn't aggravate them, wouldn't cause them to be aggressive, but what would be something that would just take me right back into my act and make them the center of attention in a negative way.
Love it. Love it. So probably the gist of everything is to break out of your comfort zone, have fun, or remember to have fun. Remember you're adding happiness or something exciting new into your life as a chance to grow in another level. What was it the doctor said that you're doing something
You're building new neural pathways each time you do something different. You're building new neural pathways in your brain. And that's an amazing thing to know that you can do that at any age, but to be able to do it when you're in your 60s and your 70s. And some of the craziest things too, Sanita, I mean, I was just trying to kind of mentally make a list of things that have happened to me in my 60s that I would never have thought would have ever happened before. And one thing that happened is my husband and I were on HGTV. When we bought this house, it was just, this strange thing. But I think it's also because we were kind of open to things happening that were different things. And this was not something that he was comfortable in doing, being in front of a camera or anything like that. I had done it years before, but they called our agent and said, hey, there's this one house, blah, blah, blah. Would we be able to interview the couple, perhaps even have them on HGTV doing the House Hunters tour? So anyway, that's exactly what happened. But here's an example with a man, he's an engineer. And so he likes for things to be kind of an equation and really specific. And so this is kind of crazy. You have to be ready for anything when it's TV, right? As you do, any place that the interview goes, you've got to be ready to go there. And so I just put some notes on the wall for him. If they ask this, you can say this. If they ask, just little bullet points. And I said, so that way you don't feel that anything is going to happen that you're not prepared for. And he ended up being twice as chatty in the interview as I was, because he was prepared and he was ready. And I was like, well, just let him do it. He likes it.
And that's something, I guess, it wasn't on his bucket list, but now it's checked off.
He wouldn't think twice about it now, Sunita. He thinks
Yeah.
he's like, no, that was really a great experience.
Yeah.
So that was something I never saw coming. And I think that happens a lot when you do this one thing, as we were talking about. If you interview for this one job, it may lead you to a different job, or it may lead you to something different. And I think that's the way that it was with HGTV, because that sort of opened my mind, I think, maybe even to doing the Miss Senior World a little bit, because I thought to myself, well, gosh, that would be something fun to put in my bio, that I've done that, because very few people have been fortunate enough to be able to do that. And that would be something fun that would make me stand out a little bit amongst the other ladies that are in the competition, and be something fun to talk about. So that's exactly what happened. It really was. It was a great experience to do that. So again, we didn't do anything to make that happen for ourselves. We just seized the opportunity. But there are a lot of people, because I talked to the production crew when the HGTV people came down here, and they said a lot of people just say absolutely not. And they said a lot of people that we interview, they do a little Zoom interview, like we're doing here, except it's a little bit more scripted. And they said people say, yeah, we want to do it, we love it, and they're boisterous and they're going to be perfect on camera and everything, and then they cancel. And that happens all the time. And I was really surprised to hear that.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. So something came to me actually when you were talking. So I was thinking, okay, because this is the last episode for the year, my challenge would be for our audience, because I know most people do resolutions, but usually New Year's resolutions are like to lose weight, pay off debt, that type deal.
Yes.
I would like people to create a break out of my comfort zone list, and maybe put 5 to 10 things, new things, or maybe something you haven't done in many years, like 40 years ago.
Right.
On your list, break out of my comfort zone list.
Yes. I think that's a great idea. And one thing that might make it a little bit easier is if you have a friend that's of a similar age, or maybe more than one friend, get them to join you, and get them to, each one of you give the other one something for their list. Because it's hard to sit down and make your list out. Okay, what do I want to do? Okay, I'm going to play pickleball. That's the big thing right now. Everybody plays pickleball.
My list.
Everybody's playing pickleball. Well, so I mean, maybe that's the easiest thing. Let your friends start your list for you.
Okay.
Because they're probably going to pick something that you're not going to pick for yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. That makes it even more exciting and challenging. Okay, ladies. So thank you so much for Gina to come around. Do you coach people at all? Do you have a website or anything you want people to look for to check out more information about you?
Well, thank you. No, I don't at all. That's the craziest thing. I don't. It just, people through other people find out that my husband and I do whatever. And that's kind of how it happened. There was a realtor that knew us because we purchased properties from her throughout the last 30, 40 years. And so she knew that we did this, and she knew this other couple that I was telling you that they're both physicians. So she kind of said, you should really talk to Gina, and now she's married, her husband, Charlie. They do all this stuff together. He's a structural engineer. They'll be able to talk you through it. But no, I don't. I do it when the opportunity presents itself. And it's the same as with my mentorship platform that I did when I was in Miss Senior World. I sort of pick and find people, or those people find me. And then to me, it's just magic. We come together, and I feel like it's a meant to be thing. Like I'm supposed to be with that person. And I coach on a variety of things. One thing that I did that I haven't mentioned to you, but I did again at Miss Senior World, I mix my own skin serums and formulas. I mix my own hyaluronic acid and my own vitamin C at home. I just made a batch yesterday of both of those for 2 months. And I gave those out to the contestants this year at Miss Senior World. And people are wanting me to sell this as a skincare line, because people are calling me 2 months later and they're going, I've had all these lines around my mouth and they've softened and all. So it's just kind of a crazy thing. So that was kind of on my bucket list, that I wanted to do more in skincare. And so I've fallen into this, I've fallen doing it.
Do you have an Instagram that the ladies can follow you at? Because maybe sounds like you're going to have a skincare line soon.
I don't know. I might. That's the craziest thing. I have not done it yet, but what I did do is I posted, and they're welcome to be friends with me on Facebook, Gina D. Moss, and it's Gina D. Moss at Instagram as well. I need to do more with Instagram. That should be, I'll do that this year. I'm going to actually push toward that because I need to do that. But I have videos of how to make the serum. You can make the vitamin C serum, which is equivalent. I do pH testing on it because of my background in science. I do all of this, and you can make it for less than $1 a bottle, things that would cost you $50, $60 a bottle. And you can make it as much as you want. You can give it to your friends as lovely little gifts, when you're housewarming and things like that. People really appreciate it. They love it. They just love it.
Well, thank you, Gina, for joining us. And ladies, follow her on Instagram and Facebook, and go and create your, we call it your break out of your comfort zone list.
Yes. How about break free of fear list?
Okay, that's good as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Gina.
Thank you so much, Anita. I really enjoyed, and I appreciate so much what you're doing.
Thank you.